the one thing that's been huge for me is going back and watching yourself and, writing down, you say the word whatever for 12 times during an hour. And don't do that. Then you go look up synonyms for whatever word that you say a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And, it even got to the point where when I'm on FNCS or DreamHack, I'm challenging myself to say certain phrases, use certain words, certain sayings within this to then broaden the verbiage that I'm throwing out there to make it, one, more mine, and two, more interesting than, oh, they're going to get the high ground. He's got another elimination, over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Hey, she's a beauty.
Welcome to Tarducks, podcast for content creators to come share their experiences, stories, and advice. And today I have SBG. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So what we normally do to get things rolling, we just do a few rapid questions just to get the juices going.
Okay, fire away.
All right. So you can replace any player on your Jets with anybody in the league. Who are you replacing?
So do I have to pick a player I'm taking off the Jets?
You're kicking somebody off the Jets, and you're putting anybody you want in who's currently playing.
As much as I believe in Zach Wilson, I think he's going to be good. I'm taking Mahomes. Give me Mahomes and peace with Josh.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Zach Wilson.
All right. What was for breakfast today?
I made myself some fried rice, so eggs, onions, a little bit of soy sauce, sesame oil, and just fried that up real quick.
Nice. All right. And the last movie you saw or TV show?
I actually watched Elysium last night. Well, the second half. I fell asleep trying to watch that the first time, so it was okay. I didn't particularly care to watch it ever again.
All right. So let's go. Where did the name come from, first of all?
So this is back in Halo 3 COD 4 days. My parents, I think I was 8th grade. My parents finally let me get an Xbox. And so I was like, all right, what's my name going to be? And of course, you get the auto-generated one. But I found it cool because when you're playing Halo, it's somebody's gun and then or Call of Duty, somebody's gun killed X and Y, or you killed somebody's gun. And I just thought that was clever. Yeah. So I stuck with that name. I had a couple of names. One was Darrell Revis, big Darrell Revis fan back in the day. And there's another one where my name was Megan Fox is Hot. That was probably not my best one, but then we had to come back, reel it in. Now that this is a job and trying to be a career. So somebody's gun is shortened down to SBG.
That's a lot safer than Megan Fox is Hot. Yep.
But I mean, right after that first Transformers came out, though.
Oh my God. That movie was so good. Even without Megan Fox, it was just it was so well done.
Yeah, those before Michael Bay got too in love with his explosions, it was a great story. And then, you had a little piece of everything in that. And that was the coming out party for Shia LaBeouf because until then he hadn't, I think he did Holes. And then outside of that, there wasn't really any great ones yet. And then he kind of took off and went crazy afterwards. But
cool. All right. So now what did you do before jumping into the esports industry? What's your background?
So I worked in tech sales. North Carolina, big tech startup hub, especially now even more are coming down to Raleigh. I graduated from North Carolina State University, go Pack.
Yeah.
And afterwards I was trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do. So I got a job in tech sales. I've always kind of been good at talking to people, and I liked the idea of sales because it's very much you get what you put into it. Yeah. If you're going to work hard, you can make more money. If you want to be lazy, you'll get your base pay, and you got to be happy with it because that's the effort you put in. So I did a few of those things, like some financial technology, some CRM stuff. Actually, I wish I stayed with one of my companies a little longer because I wound up getting bought by Facebook. And the part of the deal as joining a startup is you get a percentage of the company after so many years,
Uh-huh.
and that would have been
Oh,
a nice
yes.
bag. But
Yep.
after I think 4 or 5 years, I started. No, so it was after like 3 years I started writing. That was back in 2019, end of 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
I started writing for a website called Daily Esports. It's now kind of wrapped up into the whole enthusiast gaming media piece.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 2 years. So covered the World Cup, FNCSs after that. And I was doing that on the side sometimes while at work.
Yeah.
And I got tired of like I found that first job because there was a posting on Hitmarker because I was getting tired of my job. But
Right.
I got a few offers along the way where it's like we're gonna throw you a lot of money. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I can't say no to that. Enjoyed some, didn't enjoy others, and I kept doing all this stuff along the side. Made some content, and eventually someone reached out to me to cast like a small community event.
Yeah.
So say it was my community. Someone was like, "Yo, I'm doing like a custom." I think there was like 30 people in the
Yeah.
tournament, and I casted that event. Then after that, it was like Toronto Fortnite asked me to do an event for them, and that was the first one I got paid to
Oh,
actually
wow.
commentate on.
Yeah.
Then after that, it was Esports Arena, and like these all came within a few weeks of each other. So I
Holy
did the
crap.
first one, and then the next one, and the next one. It just started snowballing. And
Nice.
I wish those still were happening because it's been quiet.
Yeah.
But then eventually DreamHack reached out to me, and that was the first time where I thought this was real, right?
Yeah.
And I was making at least some money per month because they were doing at least one tournament a month, and then it started off with just the monthly dream hacks. Then it became the Cash Cup extras as well as a dream hack, and those were nice.
Yeah.
Because it was a little extra money. And during COVID, I got laid off probably in May, I want to say, or right before May, because COVID started in March 2020.
Yeah.
And then April, we worked from home. I put a little more effort into the content creation, and my company was almost impossible to sell stuff for at the time because everyone's looking at the writing at the wall.
Right.
Yeah, we're not spending any money. So then we got laid off. I tried to find a new job and did by September, but pretty much the whole summer I had to work on finding a new job, and the only other thing was making content.
Yeah.
So I was making content, doing casting gigs, and then worked from September, got laid off again in January because of COVID. And at that point, I was stable enough. I was working for Advance Club. I had dream hacks regularly. I had third-party gigs, and I was also working for, I started working for Elite Esports
Okay.
to do social media at first, and then just general management, helping things run.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much
wow.
how I got started in all this.
That's crazy. That's awesome. All right. Well, let's jump back a little bit to video games. And, it all started for you for your parents buying that Xbox and Halo.
It started before that.
Okay.
I had a little Game Boy Color. I was a big Pokemon guy. Loved playing those games. But I had a PS2 beforehand. I guess Xbox 360 was probably the first online competitive gaming I got to experience.
Yeah. Okay. And what are some of the games over the years that just stick out as great memories for you?
Ratchet and Clank on the PS2. I think it was Up Your Arsenal was one of like the best ones that I remember. Battlefront, both of those on the PS2, I really loved. COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, and World at War, as well as Halo 3. All hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
Those were probably some of the most games I've ever played. And then actually Halo Reach was a lot of fun because at that time, I think I was early freshman, sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
And we used to get, I don't know, I think there was teams of 16, 12, whatever it was. We'd get full lobbies of a bunch of our friends.
Oh, nice.
Play, go crazy. And yeah, I'll never forget those.
Oh, that's so cool. And then now, when did you jump over to PC gaming side of things?
That wasn't until probably no, it was right after the World Cup. So part of my writing gig, I told myself I'll save up all this money and buy a PC, and then eventually I did. By the time, I think it was right after the first FNCS, so it was probably 2019. October, November timeframe.
Yeah.
Is when I first got my PC, and I haven't really played on a console since.
Yeah. Much of an adjustment, coming from, console, or did you start playing with controller anyway and you never really did mouse and keyboard?
Yeah, I've never been a mouse and keyboard
Yeah.
gamer. I'm left-handed, so I've
Oh,
always
okay.
found using a mouse with my right hand very difficult.
Yeah.
So my aim is terrible, and then I've been playing on controller my whole life, so
Yeah.
it's pretty much just laziness, if I'm being honest with you, is why I haven't switched.
Yeah. Oh man. And now, what were some of the games when you came over to the PC that were still along the first person shooters, or did you jump into anything different?
I mean, for me, it's pretty much been Fortnite for
Yeah.
like 4 years. Like, I wish I could say. So I've played Elden Ring. I
Yeah.
still haven't finished that. We'll jump in occasionally.
Yeah.
I like playing Warcraft 3 custom games. Big fan of like a Winter Mall. If anyone listening knows what that is, it's pretty much a tower defense game.
Okay.
But built custom within custom games on Warcraft 3 with a
Yeah.
lot of twists. It's fun. I enjoy it. It's like a brainless, I know how to play this, I'll go play this.
Right.
And then Multiverses was another one I like to play for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's been it. I mean, things pop up. Enjoyed the new COD beta,
Yeah.
but there hasn't necessarily been anything that's been able to pull me away from Fortnite yet.
So now, what was your path to Fortnite? How did you get in? How did you discover Fortnite?
So first time I had I think it was my like fifth year in college,
Yeah.
and I didn't have really a place to stay. My grandparents lived about an hour and a half away from school, and I had like 2 classes left to graduate.
Yeah.
So I was working 2 jobs and just kind of making my way back to Raleigh to go to class.
Yeah.
So I'd stay at my buddy's place or my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time. And my buddy we had another friend came over. He's like, "Yo, you guys gotta play this." And we're like, "No, didn't really play video games in college. We occasionally play Smash Bros or FIFA or something like that, but not a big gamer." And then I always enjoyed games, and then my buddy got us to play this. I was naturally good at it.
Yeah.
I was the first one out of our friends to be able to, to win a game.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I like this game. So whenever I'd go to his house, he'd be at class or doing something. I'd go sit on his PlayStation, play the game for a while until he got back, and then we go do something. And then when I finally got a job, bought myself a PS4, kept playing Fortnite, and my friends told me, "Dude, you're kind of good at this. Like, you should be," because I always like would help guide people.
Yeah.
Because I understood the game better than most players.
Yeah.
And so one of my buddies, his name's Tyler, told me I should start making content. Like, you understand the game, share it with other people. And eventually I did, but that wasn't until years later.
Yeah. Oh man. And now, what is the hook that Fortnite has for you that's been able to keep you, hooked to it?
I'd have to say it's like the battle royale is really interesting.
Yeah.
And the building aspect of it makes it perfect, in my opinion. I'm not necessarily, I'm a purist. If you talk to me about competitive Fortnite, I like things as plain as possible, no movement, none of that flashiness that everyone kind of maybe wants back now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like we're split as a community, but I don't know. It's just a fun game. I think that it's a game where you constantly are getting better, and it's like so incremental that you can put in endless amounts of time, and if you're not focusing on the right things, you're not going to be improving. And that skill ceiling of being unreachable to me is fun. And now, honestly, I enjoy watching it more than playing it.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't had time to play as much as I would like to keep up.
Yeah.
Although I do play probably more than your average person, but
okay.
I don't know. It's just an awesome game. It's so complex. The players are so good.
Yeah.
I love watching, some of my favorites are like I watch a Scented led team. He's really good at playing the game. Queasy and Vino, that's a great duo to watch. And it's just understanding that these players are constantly pushing the game.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to me.
Oh, okay. And what do you think, in your opinion, how has Epic done, or how have they been able to keep Fortnite at the top of the esports pyramid, essentially?
I don't know if you could even say that it's at the top of the
Yeah.
esports pyramid. It probably was in World Cup and like shortly after, and then
Yeah.
I think it was for a little bit when everything got shut down for COVID.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But since that initial COVID burst, because they were one of the few companies that was capable of pushing everything online
Yeah.
and already had that infrastructure. So, at first it was the only thing going on when everyone went home. And then since then, it's kind of just been repetitive
Oh, okay.
and slightly tweaked. Not much has changed. And I feel like that interest has died.
Yeah.
Players are still amazing. I think they have only gotten better.
Yeah.
But as far as, interest, viewership being at the top, there's probably some pitfalls and, things that we could go back and say, I wish things were
Yeah.
done differently. But I mean, Epic has put in a lot of time and effort to make this work. And
Yeah.
the fact that you look, a tournament still has 20, 30, 40,000 people playing in it is huge. So
Yeah.
I think the player base is there, but I don't necessarily know that the viewership is there,
Yeah.
which is weird because I don't know that you have another esport like that.
Well, when Panda was on, he talked about that, something that may have hindered the viewer numbers is the fact, I guess, from inside of Fortnite, you can go and watch the events going on.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I've been hinted at there's more people watching the game
Yeah.
inside of the game than on Twitch, and they put it everywhere. I think it's on Twitter and YouTube,
Yeah.
TikTok. It's on everything, but it's also a different game because players can stream their POV compared to like every other game is like only through the official like Valorant.
Oh,
Valorant
okay.
only has the official stream, and if you're doing a watch party, you're essentially just watching that stream or a
Yeah.
clean feed with no noise from commentators or casters or anything like that.
Right.
Which does play a factor, but I also think that right now people have just gotten tired of the repetitive nature of the competitive cycle, because it really does feel like a cycle where
Yeah.
after the biggest tournament of a season, everyone's just like, all right,
Takes a break.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
It's not really a big deal of, oh, I didn't perform, I missed out on this opportunity. And even though the FNCS Invitational was there was qualifiers through each FNCS this year, it wasn't clearly stated.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have that story from beginning to end that I feel like it should have,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate, but I also get why that was done. So yeah, I don't know that
Okay.
I answered your question.
No,
but
no, yeah, you did. Now, who's in your opinion, who are the top games up there from an esports standpoint? Then,
I think you have to look at the Riot too.
Yeah.
So Valorant and League of Legends. Obviously, Dota has
Yeah.
the biggest prize pool every year, so that's wild. Those to me are probably the top three. I might be Smash.
Yeah.
Smash and fight the general fighting game community.
Yeah.
Especially Melee for Smash is incredible because we're 18, 20. Like 18, 20 years, something like that, since the game's been released.
Yeah.
And that is still going on, and players are playing at an extremely high level for
Yeah.
almost no money. So the fact that the love for the game is there. Oh, and CSGO. I
Yes.
can't forget that one. That's huge.
Yeah.
Just not in the US. Seems that NA is not the best at the team-based games. So
Now, what do you think Epic could do or to help improve that image and to get Fortnite back up there?
I'm hoping that next year and the end of this year are kind of those things.
Yeah.
But one thing that we talk about, myself, Life with Panda, and Monster D-Face on the Fortnite podcast, we pretty much had an entire conversation about this topic alone.
Yeah.
And we go on for about an hour. And some of those things, one is stories and narratives.
Yeah.
That is missing, and I feel like that needs to come from Epic doing more of a story and narrative piece as far as like from beginning to end,
Yeah.
make this matter and make the entire story come together somehow.
Yeah.
Two is content. Like one thing that I love to praise is UFC and how they kind of platform their fighters and
Yeah.
put them not only on this pedestal, but they tell the story of like why I should care who this person is.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. So leading up into the Invitational, I really hope that we get those kinds of
Yeah.
stories of, hey, here's Miro. He's teamed up with Bugo, who won the World Cup, and here's
Yeah.
what he does. Here's why you should care. Hopefully we get those. And maybe next year we'll get some as well.
Yeah.
And then other than that, just put in some. It's a lot of money. I understand.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily need the $100 million World Cup that we had last year.
Yeah.
Or not last year, in 2019. But what we do need is some kind of game plan throughout the year to give people things to look forward to and to play towards. So you can't tell those stories without having opportunities for the players to write their chapter in them. And I think LANs coming back is going to be huge because as much as online gaming's cool, it's awesome to sit here and play. You and I will never have the same experience as if you and I were sitting next to each other and being able to have this conversation and even that like water cooler talk that people talk about in office spaces. That is huge to be able to have those conversations with your peers, make connections, speak to, you know, maybe someone you see as the best player in the world and you'd be afraid to even reach out to normally. But they're sitting right next to you and they're a good dude and very friendly. So like those connections, solidifying the community, not only just from a player's perspective, but from like a fan's perspective are huge to sit down, be able to enjoy something with people like-minded, enjoy this and just get to talk about it, make new friends, build that community. That's what I'm hoping to see over the next, you know, few months and next year. Yeah,
because that, you know, that's a thing that is missing, like you said, from online. You don't have that atmosphere. You know, fans cheering on, watching the big screen, and the you know the participants there feeling that vibe and rolling with it.
Yeah, and when we did, so I was at the Gamers 8 in Saudi Arabia, that tournament. It wasn't a huge crowd, but there was, you know, a few hundred people, maybe 200-300. And, you know, Falcon Esports is based out of Saudi Arabia. So they had a massive fan base and you could just hear the crowd chanting. And that experience was so cool to get back because I've been, you know, we talked about, I'm a Jets fan. My dad took me to Jets games for most of my young life. And there's nothing quite like that feel of being in a stadium, just enjoying something with a bunch of other people or being sad with a bunch of other people. In my case.
That's true. So if we go back to casting, you know, those first times you were casting, how did you prep for those times? And then following that up, you know, when you get to the big stage, how do you prep for those events?
All right, so let's start with the beginning ones. I had no idea what I was doing. Someone asked me to do this, and I'm just like, all right, well, I could do this. And I think if you go back, if they're even available and watch them, you could tell. And then over time, I started to reach out to people. Shio was someone that helped me along the way. Even more recently, like when we were in Saudi Arabia, Shio continued to give me some help and advice. And people like Monster have mentioned things. Just to really understand what it takes to become a good caster. Because a lot of people can talk about the game. Not a lot of people can, one, show your own personality through your commentating to then separate you. Which I still think is something I'm working on. Especially because when I first started, I used to be very monotone. Everything would be like this, and I would just talk and talk and talk. And even when the game got exciting, it would be like there was nothing that changed when the game changed. I was the same person.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that helped me a lot. I learned to do that over time. I've always understood the game and always loved to dive into VODs and understand how the game works.
Yeah.
So that preparation has been constant. The one thing that's been huge for me is going back and watching yourself and, writing down, you say the word whatever for 12 times during an hour. And don't do that. Then you go look up synonyms for whatever word that you say a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And, it even got to the point where when I'm on FNCS or DreamHack, I'm challenging myself to say certain phrases, use certain words, certain sayings within this to then broaden the verbiage that I'm throwing out there to make it one, more mine, and two, more interesting than, oh, they're going to get the high ground. He's got another elimination, over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's been the big one. And then the only thing that really changed when we went into studio for FNCS was the amount of preparation I was able to put in with Vivid. We'd go back, we'd watch VODs together, talk about the game. And, when you're online, you maybe have a couple hours to work together and figure things out. But it's different because he lives for a month a few doors down from me.
Yeah.
And we get back, we want to watch over some VODs, see what certain players are doing, talk over the sequences we're going to open up the show with.
Yeah.
And it just made it so much more cohesive as opposed to, he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing. We're trying to come together.
Yeah.
But we never strictly spoke about it. And then when we did get to sit down and speak about it, I feel like it enhanced things.
Yeah. So now when it comes to casting, do you have separate roles or you're both just, back and forth versus like NFL, you have like a Tony Romo who's digging in deep and then, his sidekick is just, providing some extra.
Dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, love Romo and Nance.
Yeah.
Big fan of their commentating.
Yeah, Romo is awesome. He's so good, and the way he picks apart things. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like him. Interesting. I thought he was great. That you didn't get that from any of the other play-by-play guys. Aikman didn't really dive into it when he came on, and it's just Romo's got excitement and it's been really good.
Yeah, he's got the voice and the enthusiasm for it too. And him and Nance play perfectly because you have the veteran.
Yeah.
And then you got this new guy who just knows a ton of football and is trying to figure this all out.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how I was going to feel about Romo at first.
Yeah.
But now he's easily one of my favorites. I mean, Breen from the NBA side, I know we're going on a little tangent.
That's all right.
Breen from the NBA side, and then who's the other one? I've actually really enjoyed Aikman and Buck.
Yeah.
I don't like when they do Cowboys games because, there's way too one-sided of commentating on that. But those two are fun. And then the new Manning cast is really cool to watch too.
That is
because
good.
that's like pretty much a Fortnite viewing party, but NFL edition.
Right, yeah.
And to think they stole something from gaming and then put it in sports gives me hope that it'll continue to be innovated on.
Yeah, definitely. And Boog, I can't get into Booger doing his ESPN stuff. He's
no.
Yeah. And then Olsen is another one that on from Fox Football. He's another one that's just like you got to replace him.
I don't know. So I big NFL fan. My buddy comes over. We set up 3 TVs.
Nice.
So I don't normally listen to like one particular game unless it's the Romo game or a primetime game.
Yeah.
And I've actually loved the Thursday night crew. Thursday's done. Well, how can you not love Michaels? And Herb Street has stepped up to the NFL at a miraculous level.
Yeah.
I mean, and the crew, they got like a bunch of like real recent NFL players talking. So I've been loving what Prime and Amazon put on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Can't stand Collingsworth on Sunday though.
Oh, you
I'll
can't?
be honest with you.
He's over the years I've warmed up to him more, it's just he doesn't bother me as much as Booger. I just can't, Booger just like, oh my God.
Oh well, they replaced Booger. Like he had 1 year, right? And
Well,
then
they threw him on that truck on the sideline, I think, for one season too.
yeah, oh dude, that was no shot of that working. It's like, all
Oh,
right, let me get this cohesive broadcast and then put someone totally remote from us that has no context as the conversation, and then just ask him questions at random
yeah,
times.
yeah, that just didn't work. Nope. Oh shoot!
Oh man.
All right, so taking us back to the rails again about the casting. Are there different roles when it comes to casting in Fortnite or other esports games?
There 100% is. There's definitely more blurred lines within Fortnite,
Yeah,
but I think we're starting to see them develop more into their own roles now. Um, the color commentator obviously adds more analysis, and then you have the play-by-play who does play-by-play. I
yeah,
think the best combination that we've ever seen has been Shio Wager and Levin when they got to work together,
yeah,
because Levin's knowledge of the game, Levin's knowledge of players is out of this world, and he talks to the players regularly. He was watching VODs with them. He might even be coaching them in a call.
yeah,
So he knows what's going on, not only like in the game, but also in those players' heads because he's lived it with them.
yeah,
And then you have Shio, who is one of the greatest people at wordplay and just constantly throwing out all these things all the time. Like, it's like, okay, I would have never thought about that, but yeah, that makes sense in this moment. All right,
yeah,
cool. Somehow throwing like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into Fortnite, and then boom, yeah, okay, got that. So yes, there are separate roles.
yeah,
I can't speak to other esports. I assume more in other esports
yeah,
than Fortnite, just because of the length and there's so much going on. Normally, it's one team versus another,
right.
which makes it much easier to have those dynamics. But in Fortnite, it's
So
repetitive,
many. Yeah,
but also chaos.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So now, looking back over the years, what has been your casting highlight? Because actually, but let me just stop first. Your intro reel that you have on your Twitter there's so many cool moments it looks like you've experienced since you started down this path. And what has been, in your opinion, some of your peaks?
First of all, thank you. That is, oh man, that's a tough question. So I'm gonna have to give you three things.
All
I'm
right.
cheating. One, I got to work for XP League, which is essentially rec esports for kids, and I got to be the host. Got to do the casting for Fortnite, and just being able to see more so just watching some of the other games and like watching parents just get so excited when their
Yeah.
kid scores a goal in Rocket League.
Yeah.
And then you have like both sides because the kids are lined up in a desk and you have one side, yeah, and then there's the other side kind of like, all right, you got this, come on, keep it up.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what's going on,
Yeah.
especially when it came to like Valorant and Overwatch. Like I don't even know what the heck's going on in Overwatch.
Yeah.
But the parents just getting behind their kids, that was so cool to see. And then the other one, being in FNCS, being in the studio, getting to work with a lot of the people that I looked up to.
Yeah.
Monster, Sundown, Vivid, Adam Savage. That was our crew on NA East. And then getting to hang out with those people, like
Yeah.
Monster, Adam, and I. And then Vivid occasionally would hang out almost every day.
Yeah.
We would go get lunch, we'd get coffee, go to the studio together, and that was an awesome month of my life, just being able to live that with them. And
Yeah.
not only that, but I've worked several jobs. No one wanted to be good like that group of people.
Yeah.
No one wanted to do their job as well as that group of people, in my experience.
Yeah.
And it was every day. Every day, everyone was trying to show up, do the best they could, get better than they were yesterday. And just showing up to do your job was not good enough.
Yeah.
And being around that was phenomenal. It seemed to help me a ton.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be getting to work, I guess the first big LAN event in 3 years down in Saudi Arabia with Panda.
Yeah.
Getting to cast an in-person event with him, getting to interact with the
Wow.
players and call on that trophy moment. That was one of the cooler experiences. So all those happened this summer.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Hopefully next summer will be pretty cool as well.
Something you touched on that, is I think is really cool that you wouldn't see 10 years ago. You said the parents cheering on their kids playing a video game, it was been frowned upon from, since the early 80s, the kids playing video games and the parents hated it. And now there's that transition. Yeah, kids can get scholarships to go to, D1 schools for esports, and I see middle schools, high schools having esports teams. I think it's really cool to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I know even within North Carolina, the legislature just passed a bill, something like $10-15 million, somewhere in that ballpark, to build an esports facility and then also mobile facility to run out of NC State. So
yeah,
that'll be something really cool to see take over. And there's been a bunch of events that happen here in Raleigh, and that's no coincidence.
yeah,
The state is giving tax breaks for people to come here. And so you're just seeing more and more acceptance, right? You talked about the parents at first, but parents are taxpayers. So then the people that make the rules are like, okay, people are actually starting to care about this. Let's incentivize this to come here. And not only that, but it brings money. It brings money into the local economies, allows companies to do well. And it also gives kids another pathway.
Right.
And for me, this is something I never expected to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of kids, you think you can only make it as like a streamer or as a pro player.
Right.
But there's so many jobs within gaming and esports that if you speak to people, there's graphic designers, there's video editors, there's management, there's people that just understand all of the business aspects, finance, sales, marketing on the back end of esports orgs that are necessary. So it's not just like one puzzle piece. There's so many pieces where it is becoming more well known that it's not just playing video games. There's a lot more to it than that. And if you want to just play video games, it's pretty freaking cool to play video games with your friends, and that's how you experience team sports, I should say.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is really cool is like you can take this kid who's not the athletic kid, never the athletic kid playing on a team, and go into a college and wearing the college colors and being a part of that. I think that's something that, is really special for those kids to be a part of.
Yeah, it is. And even, 5 years ago, that probably wasn't a thing.
Right.
But I think people are seeing the value that esports is bringing to their school, because if you're getting extra eyes, say 30,000 people watch a collegiate esports event, okay, that's pretty significant for us to bring 1-2 kids to our school. I guess you're watching a traditional 5v5 game, 5 people or 4 if you're playing COD, but that also brings value to the school. So it's cool to see that it's not only just because someone thinks it's cool, but it's like mutually beneficial, which then hopefully will extend this for a longer period of time than just this short little what we're seeing now.
Right. Yeah, and actually you brought up a point that I didn't even think of, but like this team is involved in a tournament. You've got 20,000 eyes over Twitch watching this. That's a lot more eyes than they're watching the golf team wherever they're playing.
Oh yeah. And think of ad placements. You can put ad placements on a Twitch channel. You can't necessarily, besides wearing, like an NC State logo on your polo, the golf teams out there, or even something like a volleyball team, there's going to be certain restrictions that you can or can't do.
Well, don't say it too loud, because the NCAA, they're going to, come in and try to do something.
Well, actually, they've tried, and the some group of collegiate schools basically told them, go pound salt. Because we've seen what you've done to traditional sports, and we are not going to have that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Ah, cool. All right. So now you also, when you went to the Middle East to cast, you had Panda there. You've done some events with Monster. You've got Brave in your circle. Those are 3, fantastic people that have understand the business. They do the different aspects of things like we were just talking about. And, how did you end up meeting, all of them?
So the first one I really got introduced to was Monster. he helped me out along the way, throwing me some like smaller casting gigs.
Yeah.
Um, and he was always someone I looked up to. So it was cool when he was finally like, hey, I got this. I think it was Play Versus, the like high school or collegiate tournaments for Fortnite at first. He reached out to me and was like, yo, you want to do these? I'm like, yeah, sure. That's fine. No, just kidding. I was so pumped when he was like, yes, finally. But yeah, then I got to meet him regularly. He put us on a show with Panda.
Yeah.
Then I got to know Panda a little more, and then Brave is also here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So just by mutual friends, we got to meet one another and chat. It's a good group of dudes that just seem to want to keep getting better. And
Yeah.
that's what I appreciate about all of them.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So now let's talk about the FNCS. So the FNCS, when Panda was on, he, educated me a little bit because I'm ignorant to the Fortnite. I come from Tarkov, and Monster was my first, sort of step into your community and how wonderful, there's so many great people there. So you may have to educate me a little bit more on this, but now you said you're the purist of Fortnite. What's your take on the whole no bills thing when they, sort of brought that out in April? You got a lot of activity, a lot of people came.
I think it's good for the game. My one kind of caveat to it is it should never be the main competitive mode within Fortnite.
Yeah.
And as long as they remain separate, that's cool by me.
Yeah.
I think zero builds is cool. I actually enjoy playing it myself. The tournaments are fun. And I think it's good to have an easier side of Fortnite because it is a really freaking hard game to play.
Oh, yeah.
And if you watch the competitive side and you play your first game of Fortnite, there is so much disconnect as far as how you get to where the pro players are.
Yeah.
So I think the zero build aspect kind of bridges that a little bit, not perfectly. But yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. And if we're going to do like another pro-am or anything like that, zero build is the perfect model to allow everyone to be competitive as opposed to trying to shove a bunch of content creators that don't play Fortnite into a lobby with several pros.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. So now with the FNCS starting, what is that, next month? That happens?
It's November 12th and 13th, I want to say.
So now what is the format for that? Do you have multiple divisions, multiple champions, like a team, duos, or what is the, what are the kind of divisions they have in that?
So it's basically a 50 duo invitational.
Yeah.
And I say invitational, but it was pretty much qualification through the FNCS. So the FNCS has been an online format where each region is separated. There's 7 regions. We got Asia, OCE or Oceania, the Middle East, Europe, NA East, NA West, and Brazil.
Yeah.
And so Europe is the biggest one. So they got the most invites. NA East is next, and then NA West, Brazil, OCE, Asia, and Middle East are all kind of, they got a few people in it, but no significant piece. So all those players come from the various different regions. They're going to play a 2-day event in Raleigh. I don't think they've said exactly what the format's going to be. Typically, it's 6 games one day, 6 games the next.
Yeah.
So I figure that'll probably be maybe 5, maybe 6, something. And yeah, the winner of that takes home, I think it's 100,000, 150,000 a piece. It's $1 million total prize pool, so
that's cool.
Quite a lot of money.
Absolutely. Oh man! So now, what are you going to be casting that, or have they figured that stuff out yet?
I have not been told I'm casting it, so I'm going to assume that I'm not.
Yeah.
I know some people have been contacted. I'll let them share that when they feel comfortable.
Absolutely. All right. So now looks like you've got a few different projects on the go. You've got your Fortnite podcast. You have the FN Story podcast. What are the 2 different podcasts?
So the Fortnite podcast is one that we do pretty much weekly with Monster D-Face and Life with Panda, where we just talk about stuff going on in Fortnite. Yeah. Sometimes we branch out to random topics in like the general gaming and streaming world. And that's fun. It's always, sometimes we go way too long. I think it used to be like 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And since I joined, it's now been like an hour plus recently. Just you get that extra person. There's
Right.
more conversation. That's fun. So if you guys want to check that out, it's over at the Fortnite Podcast. I think pretty much everywhere Monster puts that. And then the FN story is kind of my little baby where I do something pretty similar to this.
Yeah.
Have a conversation with someone and talk to them about their story within Fortnite. I mean, we talk to players, content creators.
Yeah.
Hoping to get a couple of org owners on soon. Just anyone within the space.
Yeah.
And just talk to them.
Awesome.
Just see what's going on.
Yeah, that's cool. And then a couple other things. You have the Comp Awards FN. What is that?
So that is something that I've been doing for about 3 years and hopefully getting better and better over the next iterations. Last year was pretty cool. But what it comes down to is there's no, like, thinking of the NBA awards, the NFL honors stuff.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that for Fortnite. So past few years, I've been getting a group of panelists together. So anyone not involved as far as players or org people, maybe managers from orgs, but no org owners. I try and avoid bias as much as possible. And then we did start to get a couple of player representatives last year, but caveats, you can't vote for yourself, can't vote for your org, or if you are nominated in a category, your vote doesn't count, so on and so forth. So everything like that to go through best players in each region. Yeah. Most improved player, rookie of the year, and there's various awards that we're hoping to step up this year. I'm looking for some sponsorships to try and be able to provide actual physical trophies to award winners and then step up the quality of production, things like that. But it's been very successful so far as receptiveness from the community. Yeah. And I want to make sure I keep the principle of fairness as like that main piece. So even though I am getting sponsors, there'll be rules as far as like what goes on.
Oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. When you're not doing anything Fortnite related, what are you doing away from the computer and the phone?
Football, we talked about that one.
Yeah.
Love the NFL. I guess that's on a screen still, but nonetheless, NC State football, although they love to make it stressful. And then I watched the NFL. Then outside of that, I mean, I like to just be outside. Yeah. I've been moving in, like, this is a new place I moved into earlier this year. Been working on my yard, built a patio earlier this year.
Nice.
Love grilling, love cooking.
Yeah.
And then the beach. The ultimate goal is to be able to move back out to the beach, and that's where I'll be this weekend.
Awesome. What's the weather down there like right now?
It's like mid 70s-ish.
Oh, that's nice. All right.
And then like gets into the 60s or so at night. But the fall in North Carolina is my favorite. Yeah. Because it's perfect for like 3 months where you can wear a long sleeve shirt and sweatpants or a t-shirt and shorts, and it's just kind of whatever.
Nice. Very cool. And now any goals or events happening in the next little while you want to talk about or share?
The two things that I really have going on are, one, I've been doing daily duo VOD reviews, so looking over every single duo that qualified for the FNCS Invitational and covering their games. So we have, like I mentioned earlier, players from 7 different regions, and they've never played against each other, at least not on like a fair level playing field before. So I'm trying to look at those, kind of see where everyone's at going into this big event. That's on my YouTube channel, Somebody's Gun. You can find that. And then the other one is the competitive awards. I'm starting that earlier. I spoke with my graphic designer. He's my boy. Shout out Blaze. And just kind of getting that rolling, trying to find some sponsorships so I can ship trophies out to people. Because otherwise I'll be like $4,000 in the hole when that all comes to a head. Yeah. And right now, I can't afford to be throwing out $4,000 just for fun. So
Yeah. Nope, not many of us can. All
that's
right.
what I got going on.
Cool. Well, hey, you survived the podcast, but before you go, it's always a tradition for somebody to call out who somebody in your area that you think has a good story and should come on and talk about it.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Unamused Bryson would be a fun conversation. He's a character.
Yeah.
Definitely
Okay.
a funny guy.
All right. What is he a streamer? What's his background?
Yeah, so he's a streamer also in the Fortnite space.
Yeah.
And then he writes for esports.gg.
Okay.
So he covers like general gaming news, streamers,
Yeah.
and then Fortnite stuff. So he's kind of in tune with everything.
Yeah.
And also makes his own content. And I believe he's in school. So I won't tell you his full story. You'll
All right.
get him on
Excellent.
internet.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. It's been nice meeting you, and you have yourself a great day.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.